What's up, y'all? It's Will here at Schedulefly. And this is a cool episode because this is with a guy named Jason Cervantes. And he is starting a new concept in Long Beach, sort of the Los Angeles area out there in California. It's called Lil Vegerie, and Lil apostrophe. And it's a vegan quick service place. Smoothies, salads, bowls. He's been in the industry a while. This is his first opportunity to own his own place. And he told me about this. I looked back in my emails. It was a couple years ago. And he talked about, this in the episode. He talked about, kind of during COVID and they were all shut down. And that was when he started thinking about this and researching this and planning this. And I did find, after I talked to him, I went and found the email where he first mentioned he was working on this, and it was like almost 2 years ago. I think it was September or August of 2020 ish, and so it was really cool to have this opportunity because Jason is opening his new place. The plan is on May 1, and so just right around the corner, and it's very cool to talk to him about learning the process of creating a business plan, finding investors, structuring the investment, and all the things leading up to opening his first place. And we talked about this on the episode, and I hope that we'll both follow through with this, or I hope mostly that he has the time and the inclination to do this, which is we talked about making this almost a series within our podcast series we've taught him a month away from opening, what happens a month after opening. And then, what happens 3 months after that and 6 months after that and so forth. How do things track to his plan and what's changed and how are things going? So if he and I both follow through and, continue with that, I think it would be really cool to just sort of document live the planning of and opening and growth of a new concept and of a first concept for a first-time owner. So we had a couple of technical issues. I think I cleaned most of it up. His Wi-Fi wasn't working there, some issue with Spectrum, so he's on his cell line, and so there's a couple of places where it gets a little broken up, but I think it's fairly well cleaned up. And either way, it's definitely very well worth listening to this. He has a great attitude. He's worked really hard at this. He's very excited about his plan and the opportunity he has. And of course, we always just love these types of stories here at Schedulefly, and we love being able to share these stories, and we appreciate you listening. Spread the podcast, by the way, as much as you can. We've grown our business, we've grown this just word of mouth, really, and super thrilled to have a great audience. If you have 30 seconds, particularly if you're on iTunes, give us a rating. A rating of 1 to 5 stars, and 5 being the best, and a comment that really helps the algorithms, place us in front of people that are looking for restaurant content. So without further ado, thank y'all for listening, and stay tuned. More of these coming. All right. See ya.
What's up, Will? How are you?
Man, I'm good. How you doing?
Good. I'm doing well. It's good to see you. It's good to finally put a face to the voice.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. I appreciate you doing this today, man.
Honor. I've learned a lot from listening to the podcast and reading the book. You have 2 books, right?
Yeah.
I've read through most of one of them, and so it's an honor to jump in and try and give back a little.
Well, okay. Start out. Just introduce yourself.
Yeah. Here. Name's Jason Cervantes. I'm in Los Angeles, South Bay, Redondo Beach. Opening a restaurant. Nice little vegan takeout concept that we're doing. Been in restaurants mostly my whole life, and was a server for a lot of years, and then in leadership for 7. Was fortunate to be manager then AGM, and then GM and a director at some popular spots here in LA, all high volume. And so now I'm taking a stab at my own.
What an exciting time, man. Congrats on that. So what's the time frame for y'all?
May 1st.
Ooh.
Yeah. I got lucky with a turnkey spot that this guy wanted out and I wanted in. And so all the heavy lifting's done. So pretty much just decorating, some small equipment we need, and some bells and whistles, signage, get all the health stuff straightened out, and hire and train, and get it fired up.
That is so exciting, man. May 1. So this is your baby. A lot of years in the making. So let's talk about it, man. So I mean, you've been working on this through COVID and all the craziness out there in LA, and so you tell me about the spot there. You said somebody wanted out. Was it somebody who wound up not making it because of COVID, or they were just moving on? Or tell me about the location.
Yeah. So when I set out to do this, it was kind of right around the time we all got furloughed, right? So almost 2 years ago. And I enjoyed the time off for a little bit, right? Because running restaurants and stuff, it's a grind, we all know. And so I was like, couple weeks off, I'll take it. And then, but I still had in the back of my mind, I should still look for work, and see what's going on. So I started looking for jobs, and the couple places that were looking for some managers and stuff. Did I lose you there or no?
Yeah, I lost you for a second.
No, I'm on my phone because I guess there's a Spectrum outage. So there's no internet. So I'm on my phone. So it was a call coming in. But anyways, so I looked for management jobs for a little bit, and nobody was hiring, the higher positions like I was looking for. So I kind of couldn't find anything. And I thought of this idea to have a place where we can eat clean and but still be delicious. My fiance is a nutritionist, and she has always been big on how what we eat affects our bodies. And she's always sending me all these clean recipes, and when I was working a bunch, I never had time to cook or use these things that she wanted us to make. And finally, when I had all this time off, we started cooking clean at home, plant-based, no soy, no gluten. And but I have big restaurant palate. I've been eating restaurant food my whole life, so I'm like, all right, we'll eat clean, but we gotta make it delicious. It's gotta taste good. I'm not gonna eat boring food. And so that's what we built this around. And I'm getting to your question. They when I set out to do this, everybody said I was never going to raise the money, but I would find a spot like that, because everybody thought all these places were going to go out of business. So fast forward, I did the business plan and the pitch deck, and did all the research and everything, and I was able to raise the money pretty quickly, and I couldn't find a spot. And somebody in one of my conversations with mentors and other owners and stuff, somebody suggested just knock on doors, go to into businesses and ask if anybody wants to sell. And I came into this box. I'd driven by it a million times, and I popped in and was able to get a hold of the owner, and he wanted a bunch of money that so it didn't work at that time. And fast forward a few months, and I don't even know how he still had my number, but he reached out and was willing to make a deal. And so it made sense, and we pulled the trigger. And I think he said that the pandemic kind of did him in. Before that, they were doing pretty well. And, but they're right across the street from, they were doing Mexican food, and it's right across the street from this Mexican place that's been here for decades. And it's like the spot that everybody goes to for that type of food. And, so anyways, he was ready to go. And, so we lucked out.
Man, there's so many things I want to ask you about. So I'm trying to think about where to start, because it's such a unique opportunity when you're building up to this first place. Okay, so let's talk about the business plan. So you sat down to write a business plan. Like, what had you written one before?
No. And it was daunting, man. I had a couple pitch decks. See, I didn't even know like the difference between a business plan and a pitch deck, right? Like when people had handed pitch decks that I could use as reference, and I thought that was a business plan. And but a huge help was this local community here has a program with free business consulting. And I don't know if anybody listening if there's something local to everybody that does that, but here in LA, El Camino College it's called the Small Business Development Center, and it's free business consulting through the college. And it was hugely helpful. And so I reached out to them, and they assigned me to a guy with restaurant experience who I was able to pick his brain pretty much whenever I wanted. And then there's another guy who's more like finance side of stuff. And they suggested a service called Live Plan, which is awesome.
Live Plan?
Yep. Liveplan.com. And they break it up into like just manageable pieces. And they give, for each part, the executive summary, the team, the vision, the mission, all of it, the numbers. There's a huge section on the numbers, of course, which is really important. And it broke it into little manageable pieces. And for each section, it like would walk you through exactly how to do it. And it even had examples of other business plans that had been done, so you can use those as like for reference. And it was huge. So I little by little chipped away at that, and then before I knew it, I had a whole big pretty business plan with financials and everything plugged in. But of course, I had to do my homework as far as what it was going to cost to do this. What's the market looking like? How are things trending for plant-based food? And yeah, so did the business plan, and then that kind of informs the pitch deck, and we got that going. And every step of the way, I reach out to the consulting guys. I'm like, hey, this is where I'm at. What do you think? And they kind of critique it, and I'd go back and polish it off. And then my fiance was a huge help in making the pitch deck pretty. She put some cool colors in it, some cool graphics, and then next we know, we're ready to sell it.
So okay, so how long did it take you to do the business plan?
A few months, chipping away.
How many pages was it?
So the big document is like 40. And interestingly enough, nobody looked at it. Nobody asked for it. Everybody, wanted to see the deck. This is when I reached out to start selling it. People want to see the deck. And then through that, in conversations around that, I was able to share my facility with the numbers and show everybody like, yeah, restaurants are risky, but here's why you're going to get paid back, and here's how much money you're going to make after that. And then so it was, I joked that nobody looked at the deck at the business plan, considering what was, known to be a valuable document, but nobody looked at it. But all the work I did to put into it was huge, because I know it inside and out, so I can talk about it whenever it comes up.
So then you've got a 40-page business plan, which I was going to ask you. I mean, I would think you probably would still be glad you did it just because of what you learned. But the pitch deck, so what is a pitch deck? How many pages is a pitch deck, and what's the difference between the two?
Yeah, I've always loved your questions, and I wanted to say that the podcast, there's always like a therapeutic effect value to, because you have this cool like cadence in your voice and the way you talk, and like the cool Southern thing going. It's always like relaxing to listen to you. Um, the pitch deck it can be between like 10 to 14 pages. It's like a summary of what's in the business plan, and it's got all like the stuff people want to know, right? Like, a nice pretty page with the name of the business and my name and my title and my contact info, and then what problem are we going to solve, right? Like for us, there's good food everywhere, but not all of it is made to promote well-being. And so if somebody, for whatever reason, you it's after the holidays and you want to eat well, or you went to the doctor and the cholesterol's high or the blood pressure's high or something, unless you like cook at home and have it fit what you need, there's really not a lot of options where you can eat that it's like, good for you, but it also tastes really good. There's more, but it's still pretty green. So, that's a problem. Solution, how are we gonna, so you have your opening, your problem, your solution. We're gonna make, chef-driven, delicious, plant-based bowls and salads that are soy-free and gluten-free, but above all, taste good and in a convenient approach, right? Quickly, cleanly, deliciously. So that's our solution. Then, like, your how are you going to get the word out? How are you going to go to, it's called the go-to-market page, a page with the market stats, like this is why it's trending and this is why it's a good investment for you. This is how it's trending and why it's a good investment for you. Globally, it's on pace to do 75 billion. Plant-based food is on pace to do $75 billion in the next few years. Nationally, all the plant-based brands are doing well. Vegerie is has like 35 locations now. There's another place called Copper Branch from Canada that has goals to have 200 stores pretty soon. Guys like Mark Cuban have invested millions of dollars in plant-based operations, and then locally, all the plant-based places in LA near where we live are all doing really well. So that's like the market stats page. This is how how much we're gonna charge per bowl and average person, and this is how many people we expect to serve, and this is how much money we can make in a year. And then of course, like a page of the financials, top line gross sales. This is how much our costs are going to be. This is how much we're going to profit, and this is how fast you'll get paid back if you invest. And of course, they're all projections. And then, so before you have a document, 10 to 14 pages. You want to be thorough, but like concise, because you only have people's attention for not that long.
Yeah,
but you want to get the point across.
So okay, so you put this together and you do all this research, and I'm curious. Like, I've always been fascinated with this. Like, you're starting this place from scratch, new concept, and your first location. How do you get an idea of what your revenue is going to be? I mean, you have to make a lot of assumptions, I'm assuming, on traffic, and like, how do you come to that number?
So I look at what was the first step for that? That's one thing I did. I went to other plant-based spots around town and just parked outside and just watched the traffic that went in and out, and trying to gauge how much food people went out with.
Love it.
Yeah. And most of it went pretty well. One guy didn't. So one guy saw me and he came out and he's like, "Yo, what are you doing?" And I'm like, open spot. He's like, "You're kind of creepy." And I'm like, "Man, I'm sorry. I'm doing research." He's like, "Yeah, the sooner you're done, the better." And I was like, "All right, sorry."
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
You got to do what you got to do there, Jason.
Right. I bought stuff. I was like holding one of his smoothies. I'm like, I bought something. He's not there anymore, by the way. But that was a big part of it. I'm trying to think. that. And then like, I see how much people are paying, like I look at other menus and see how much people are paying. And then I kind of see how much it would cost to kind of make everything go. And then I have our targets, like, if we can make $1 million a year, we can profit this much. Okay, cool. How many bowls do we have to sell, and juices and stuff to make $1 million a year? Cool. We'd have to do this many people a day, this many people an hour. And then, so, I would stake these places out, during busy times, during not busy times, then kind of come up with an average of how many people are coming in a day. And then I have real numbers of like, hey, cool, we can do this much. Sorry, got another call. We can do this much a year if we do this many people. These places are doing that, so these are feasible, realistic projections, and that's kind of the nuts and bolts of it.
So you put this together, and you have your final deck. You had some mentors you mentioned through the program at the school, and then how do you go start raising money for this? Like, who do you start calling? Is it friends and family, or do you have a certain strategy for how you approach people, or like when you approached them? Meaning that, like, do you go to your best prospects first, or do you go to them last because you want to refine your plan, or how'd you do it?
So glad you asked that, because it's funny. One of the things I remember from one of your books actually says that you take your you write down everybody. You remember this? You write down.
I do. Scott Maitland at top of the hill. It's why I asked that question, because he go ahead. I mean, I remember it very well.
Yeah. So it says you take your you start a list of people you think you'll invest, and you start at the top with the people you're sure will come in, and hands down, I know that they're going to jump on board. And then you go all the way down, and at the bottom of the list is people that like probably won't, but you're just going to throw it at them just in case, see what sticks. And then you flip that list upside down, and then you start with the people that you probably won't, and then you work your way down to the people that will, and then every time you do that, you practice the pitch, right, and you get better at delivering it. And it's so funny because I was so excited when I finally finished the deck and put all the work into it, and I was going to go raise money. I completely disregarded all that, and I just because I was sure there's no way anybody's going to tell me no. And I wish I would have taken the advice and done it, because there was a lot of no's, and it's exactly like it says is. I had been working on all this stuff for all that time, but I hadn't and I talked about it a lot. So I thought that I was dialed in with, how to deliver it, but I wasn't, to share it with somebody in a way that's exciting to them, and to start, people don't care about my dream and my passion and all that. They, of course, right. Naturally, they want to know how they're going to make the money back. So, I got a lot of no's, and I just, started with, in my contacts, I've run a lot of restaurants, and I've met so many people along the way. And so I had a giant list of people, and people from school and people I met over the years that I know, have deep resources. So I started there, and I got a lot of painful no's. Shout out to my fiance for, talking me off a cliff, every couple of days when it looked like nobody's ever going to come in. And, but exactly like that suggestion read in the book, every no I got, I learned from, and, would take notes and stuff about, gauge when people, what people were interested in, and where I lost them and stuff. And then practice, how to deliver it. And, but interestingly, all the money, most of it came from places I didn't even expect. I would just run into somebody and tell them about what I'm doing and what's going on, and we have a conversation. And then next thing I know, they're like, sign me up. How much would this get me or whatever? And but even in those conversations, I had practiced it, and I was able to, confidently discuss what was important to them. And then, but there were still, some friends and family who came in, thankfully. And, so all that.
Yeah. I've always felt like that. It's an amazing piece of advice to take that list, and you're obviously going to think of the best opportunities first. It's great advice to say flip it upside down. The challenge is with a lot of advice is like you can't really appreciate it until you experience it. And when you've done the amount of work you've done to build this thing, it's like, yeah, but I know this stuff, and you want to raise the money. Like, so you're just thinking like, I got to start with, I got to get this done. And, it is why I asked that question. I was really curious about that. I thought it was, of all the years doing this, there's certain things that really caught my attention and I've never forgotten. And that's one of them, because it was so counterintuitive. I mean, it makes a ton of sense when you explain it, but it's not something you would naturally intuit. You would just, you'd think the opposite. But, how long did it take you to raise the money?
Like 6 months.
Okay. And, how many investors do you have?
Like 9.
Okay. So you got 9 investors, and is it debt and equity, or how did you structure it?
All equity.
Okay.
One of my mentors is a previous boss of mine, and clearing all these calls. So I followed his footsteps, and so I sold 50% of the company. Well, hold on for me 1 second.
Yeah, no problem. All right, cool. We're recording again. So you were okay. So we were talking about, if I remember, investors, and it was equity, and it was 50-50, if I remember correctly, based on, good advice you got from mentors. Is that right?
Yeah. So I sold, sold 50% equity.
Okay, got it. And then how do you, what's you don't have to get into the dollars, but like how do investors that are equity investors in a restaurant like yours get a return? Are you paying like an annual dividend, or is it their return? Is it you have a long-term exit strategy, or both? Or
good question. So part of me being able to sell it was the promise that we're going to get everybody paid back as quick as humanly possible. And in order for that, the way we structured it is that I, as the owner, I won't take any profit until everybody's paid back. And then as far as like actual distributions, that's one of the things that I'm kind of learning as I go. But as soon as it makes sense, to keep things moving here and have enough on hand for a rainy day kind of stuff, then as soon as I can start making distributions, and then we can get that rolling. But yeah, so until everybody's paid back, I'll take like a tiny salary, like just enough to get by. I was doing the numbers, and it's going to be right around what I was compensated my very first management job. Like when I went from serving to managing, like low level manager.
Yeah.
It's gonna be that, and then hopefully we can get things to go and get everybody paid back, and then onward and upward.
What happens when you pay back though? Does that change the equity structure, or?
No. So if somebody, like, let's say somebody buys in for 10% ownership for 10 units, since that's what they own, right? So I own 50, and then everybody owns everything else. But since I'm not making any profit out of the gate, then essentially they're gonna any profits that get distributed, a 10% owner is going to get 20%, and then after that, until they're paid back, and then after that, then everybody, whatever we distribute, then breaks up. The ownership structure dictates.
Okay, gotcha. So, so you got how many people? I mean, how many investors or potential investors do you think you spoke to?
Probably like 80 or 90.
Really?
I think I might be. I mean, it feels that way, like as all the
Yeah.
notes. That might be kind of high, but if I'm ballparking it, probably at the most. But yeah, it felt like, there's, just like anything, there's a lot of rejection. So sometimes it felt like, not if 70 people told me no. But somewhere around there. Could have been less.
Did you talk to any traditional sources of financing, like banks for an SBA loan or anything like that, or was it all just?
I did not. I don't own a home, and I live in LA, so I rent a little apartment, and yeah, I mean, anybody I spoke to said that I didn't even really dig deep into it because my understanding is you have to own a home to put up. So no.
Okay, gotcha. So you went with private investors, and then and you got a group of people who are behind behind what you're doing, and have obviously they understand it takes a while to get going, but you feel good about all the folks you have on board, and you got what you need to get started. So here we are, about a month out from opening. Now I see you got a nice looking background in that space there. How much of your build out have you done?
So fortunately, it's all built. We don't have to do anything. It's just like some lipstick and a couple pieces of equipment, and like small wires. The security, the guy that was just here was dialing in the security stuff. So yeah, thankfully no build, because that it's so expensive to do all that stuff. We almost took over the spot that we were going to have to build out, just because that's how dire it was looking for a space. We couldn't find anything, and finally one of my partners who's in construction offered to do the, if we did find the right spot, he offered to do the build, and we're going to work everything out on the back end. And but the more I'm here in this turnkey spot, and the more I learned just from doing the little bit of that we're doing here, like it's scary to think how much it would have cost us to, even with his offer of him doing the whole build and working things out in the end. Because I mean, things were expensive before, all this and inflation and all that. So yeah, so nothing really, and even as minor as all the stuff is that we're doing here, I still know how fast money goes, and I'm spending every hour every day. I still have a waiter serving job, 2 jobs that I do on the weekends, but Monday through Friday I'm here, and I could have gone for convenience to buy all the stuff that we need. We needed a 4-burner with an oven, juicers, and the Vitamixes and the food processors and that kind of stuff. And for the convenience of it, I could have just, gone to the local store and got everything in one swoop. But that alone, we're talking like, $7,000 ish. So I've just been haggling with people on Craigslist and OfferUp and Facebook and all that stuff. And so fortunately, I've done really well. Saved a bunch of money by doing that.
Good, man. It's worth that effort. Yeah, for sure. It's amazing how creative you can get when when you're really keeping the dollars in mind. And so tell me about the first of all, what is the name of the concept? You may have said it, but I blanked if you did. What's the name of the? Wait, say it again.
Lil Vegerie. So there's breweries, eateries, but there's no Vegerie. So I'm like, we'll call it the Lil Vegerie. Yeah.
And this is so vegan and fast casual.
Yeah, quick service, soy free, gluten free, no animal products, pressed juices, smoothies. Yeah, bowls and salads, like yummy, like a Latin inspired bowl with like a mushroom asada, rice, beans, chipotle, cashew crema, pico, guac, salsa. We're going to do a ceviche salad. We made a hearts of palm, of course, instead of fish. A poke style bowl, but with beets, right? Instead of fish, like a nice shawarma vibe with good hummus and some nice fresh crunchy vegetables, like a pumpkin curry, potato style bowl. Yeah, a little bit of everything.
Smoothies, bowls, salads, no soy, no gluten.
Yeah, fresh juice.
Okay. And then what about, okay, so talk about, I mean, you're hearing a lot more about soy now. I know that, there's a lot of folks that have issues with gluten, my wife being one of them. What about soy? What's the issue with soy?
So a lot of it is, a GMO now, from what I understand. And it's one of the that I understand just to be inflammatory, and just cause, different blockages. My fiance would be the one better to speak to this exactly, as far as how these different, processed things affect our bodies. I mean, again, I say this all the time, I'm not a vegan. And I mean, I've been in restaurants my whole life. I have a restaurant palate, like, I will, if there's something in front of me that has soy or gluten or whatever, like I'm going to put it down usually. But I will say that, we've done some of these cleanses and stuff that she's big on. And, like, for example, I always struggled with sciatica for like over 10 years now. Like it's just always, like I work through it or whatever, but I'm always like doing the stretches and stuff and massages and everything. Cause like, there's always just this like, throbbing kind of thing down my leg. And we did one of these cleanses, with just steamed vegetables and fruit, no caffeine, no soy, no gluten. And I realized, one day I was cutting vegetables, we were prepping for one of these meals. And whereas like it was always a case where I could just feel that the pain, it was gone. And I've always kind of known, how what we eat really affects our health and our body. But that was like, and over the years I've lost a bunch of weight from eating cleaner and stuff. But that was one of the first times where it was something that I never thought, the two would be connected. Where from eating cleaner, like this real physical discomfort feeling was gone. So as far as soy, I can't truthfully put my finger on exactly the benefits of working around it, but I know that all in all, things like soy and gluten, working around them can be helpful for the body. But again, we can work around it all we want, but if it's not like delicious, like really yummy and craveable and satiating, then nobody's going to care. So that's the exciting part is working within that framework, but making sure that we find the textures and colors and flavors that hum.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I personally, I don't eat any soy. And you can definitely make very tasty, healthy things without it, without that, and a lot of things, a lot of preservatives and so forth. Yeah, soy's well, I mean, it's it was interesting this summer. We took an RV trip from here in North Carolina out to Boulder, Colorado, and
nice.
Particularly when you're going through, yeah, well, I thought it was nice. I don't know if my wife and kids thought it was so nice sometimes, but it was the typical like family of five in an RV thing. It was like something out of a movie, but there was so much soy and corn, like particularly in Kansas, it's like all you see. It's just soy and corn, soy and corn, soy and corn. And
wow.
That's big food. That's what they use to. So, I was just curious. I mean, you're in LA, in the LA area. I mean, just anecdotally, I would think there's a lot of people out there that are, good candidates for what you're doing. trying to stay healthy and fit. And I mean, it just seems like a really good place to do what you're doing. But now, do you have, you mentioned a couple of other brands that, one out of Canada and one I think there that have grown or in growth trajectories. I'm actually a little bit surprised, given how much movement and momentum there's been towards plant-based eating. I'm a little surprised there aren't more places like yours, popping up all over the place. Is it hard to, is it hard to keep stock and, fresh fruits, vegetables, all the stuff you need? Like, is there a lot of, spoilage or things like that? Or like, why aren't there more places like what you're doing, Jason?
It's a great question. I think, if I'm not like an expert in stuff like this, but from my experience so far, I think at the end of the day, we're still like by and large like a carnivore like society, kind of, right? Like
yeah.
And, I part of me thinks that there's still like this kind of like alienating like this like line between meat eaters and people that don't eat meat. Because I think from conversations I've had is that sometimes meat eaters feel that like plant-based people like look down on kind of like talking to me there's like a finger pointing kind of thing. So maybe that ties into why but I don't know, like, but even having taking this place over, there's people that walk by and, we're painting and we're moving stuff around and getting things ready. And some people walk by and I, put my hand out and introduce myself. And some people were really excited. But some people are still so disappointed in the fact that a plant-based operation is coming in, just because, this girl came up and she, wanted tacos, and I'm like, hey, sorry, they're not here anymore, but we're going to be opening up soon. And she goes, what kind of food? And I'm like, we're going to do plant-based. And she like looked at me like up and down and was like, yeah, that's not the same. I was like, well, sorry.
Yeah. Well,
I was like, well, tell me what you used to like here, and we'll try and, make sure we have something that you might enjoy. And she goes, yeah, I don't enjoy plant-based. I tried. But you're right. It's still pretty, in a lot of ways, white. And it's probably that because, at the end of the day, like, burgers taste good. Like, we all love steak, like sushi, like, but plant-based stuff is growing. Part of my studying, I learned that it's growing at 17% a year. Whereas, traditional food market is closer to 2 or 3 on average.
Yeah, I think you're on the front end of something great, and I think you're in a great place to do it, man. You just, then it just becomes a question of, execution, which is no easy task. You're ready, and it's super exciting. I can't wait to, stay in touch. And, in fact, what we ought to do, man, is like check in, like, I don't know, like once a month or something. You can just, have like a series on here if you're interested in just sharing what's going on and what you're learning. I've always thought that would be a neat thing to do as somebody is getting started. Tell me about hiring people. You got a staff yet, or is that like, how does that work when you're opening a month from now?
Yeah. I knew that was going to be one of the bigger challenges, because there's like way more restaurant jobs. We took a big hit with the pandemic. A lot of people just found other industries to work in, and so the people that are left are making a lot more money now. At one of the restaurants I work at, dishwashers are making $20 an hour. Thankfully I found a great vegan chef who is helping develop the menu. so good. And it even still boggles me how the food can be with all, all plants. Because I didn't grow up eating this way, but it's exciting now. And then, so it's going to be a really lean operation for now. We're going to open with limited hours and kind of develop our rhythm and stuff. So I just put an ad on Craigslist and found a couple. I found one. I have two guys. One guy's going to run be my AM guy, and then the other guy's going to be a PM guy. And then of course I'll be here, and Chef will be here for a little bit. But yeah, one guy through a friend of a friend, and another guy through just an ad I posted on Craigslist, and tried to groom him. And it's tough because it's hard to find people, and then when you do get somebody who's interested, you really want to. One thing I've learned in management is if you hire hard, you can manage. So we're really trying to get to know somebody and make sure that the work ethic is there, and that they have a commitment to high standards, and that we mesh well, because we're going to spend a lot of time together. So I've been fortunate that we secured our staff.
I lost you for a half a second there, but it was something I wanted to hear what you said. You said when you hire hard,
manage easy.
I like that.
Where if you have a pulse, if you can breathe, throw an apron on and get in. And then sometimes you get lucky and you find good people. But if you really spend the time to lay out expectations and see how people respond, and do the best we can to make sure that we share our vision on work ethic and commitment to high standards and consistency and executing at a high level. Do the best we can to find the right people that line up with all that, then it becomes managing them easy. But you get the wrong person sometimes on board, and then some people, in my experience in management, some people start off rocky but can turn a corner, but sometimes it's just not a good fit. So the more we can do to get in front of that, the better.
I'm trying to think of there's like 1,000 things I'd like to ask you, but I guess the last one for now is, what do you do to, you've got obviously your foot traffic, and you're going through the process of putting up signage and everything else, but how else are you spreading the word that you're going to be there soon, and getting people excited?
I've always been big on the idea that our biggest tool is going to be word of mouth. Right. Like everything that we do, thought goes into it as far as how it comes across to the guest. Signage when people drive by, our website that we're currently building, make sure that it's seamless and it jumps, and any information that somebody might want is readily there. Contact info, hours, all that, what we're about, who we are. I learned that the experience doesn't always start when someone walks in. The experience starts when they call on the phone. How are we answering the phone? Are we excited that people are calling? Are we, something as little as like, thanks for calling, how may I assist you, versus how can I help you? Like, it's a little thing like that comes across gracefully. And then from when they walk in, put thought into making it feel nice. I remember Danny Meyer's book. He said that people like to be transported when they walk into an establishment. If I can, for a second while I have them, just take them out of the daily grind of their day with thoughtful ambiance and nice, comfortable lighting and friendliness and promptness from the staff and good music, so, and then, serving the food and making sure that it's consistent and it's delicious and every time the same. And then that way, people leave and they tell their friend, hey, I just went to this spot. It's brand new. Plant-based will be so good. So word of mouth is, we'll put a lot of effort into that. And then of course, social media, we have our page is live. It's still so new that there's not much action on the page, but either today or tomorrow, my friend and I are going to do a little intro about finding a space and launching soon. And then get involved with the community as we can. See what we do to sponsor a youth athletics team or youth music programs, and reach out to the local papers, because they all have little food columns, and make sure that we are inviting people in and showing them a nice time so that we can get some exposure that way. Social media. Oh, and then of course with the delivery apps, I'm setting all that up as we speak with the DoorDashes and the Uber Eats and the Grubhubs. Because as painful as it, the commissions are pretty high, but I think the advertising is worth it to get the brand out, get the name out. Social media, word of mouth, local publications, the delivery apps, and then get involved with the community as much as we can.
Some of the food prices have just gone up astronomically over the last 3 to 6 months. More of those are probably, I would imagine, meat and things that you're not serving. How about vegetable prices and fruit prices and things like that that'll be on your menu? Have those gone up as much? Wheat's another one that has, but you don't have any gluten, so.
Right. So it's to be determined. I'm bracing myself for the worst, right? But at the end of the day, I have to get the numbers to go. So once we start getting everything in and seeing how things are looking, then we'll price accordingly. I have to hit our targets for like food costs and stuff. So whatever it ends up costing to put food in on a plate, we'll build on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but fortunately we're all in it. We're all in it together. So it won't be like see how much it costs to put in the bowl, and then also look around and see what other people are charging and try and find a nice little spot in there.
Go creep around looking at other people's menus. That was a funny story, man. Dude, that's hilarious. Guys just trying to do some market research. Love it. Well, so what's top of mind? Like what's on the top of your list right now between now and, you got whatever, like 5 weeks, like what are the big things you have to accomplish between now and then?
Let's have a look. So much. Got most of the small wares done. One of the consultants that I worked with has this big, pretty checklist, a pre-opening checklist. And I've looked at that over the last couple of years to see where we're at. So I'll go through that. So I secured our guys, but the official, the new hire packet with all the documents, I've been building that. Had a meeting with the apparel person a couple of days ago to finalize that. And so I'll be sending that off in the next couple of days. Our signage, we approved the final draft, so pulled the trigger on that, and that should be ready in a couple of weeks. I have these big pretty TVs on which the previous owner had his menu, so gotta get signed up with the right person to get us to put everything up there. Just all the I met a guy over the course of all this who was a big wig at one of the distributors, pro distributors, and he's like, hey, when the time comes. So he left and then now does his own thing, and he always said to reach out because he would walk me through the tricks and stuff and what the guys do to fluff the prices up. And he goes, give me a call and I'll walk you through how to work with those guys and keep things down. Painting. One of my fiance's good friends does these beautiful murals that we're going to do on one of these walls. And then, so the wall behind me is going to stay, of course. It's got the pretty woodwork. And then the wall opposite to that is a cool mural. And then we're going to paint the other two walls a nice, soft color. So we're doing that in the next week. One of my, the guy that does a beverage program at one of the restaurants that I work at is a complete stud. And he works obviously mostly with cocktails, but he is like a just a genius at combining fun flavors. So we're going to make pressed juices, but I'm like, well, cool. Let's have Liam think of cool stuff, you know, because he makes his cocktail with Midori and Parmesan, right? And people go like everybody the same look, like what? And but it like people go crazy for it. And you know, like our chef there said that she hates Parmesan and hates Midori, but she loves that cocktail. So he's a stud at putting together nice flavors. So he our drinks for us, and we're gonna have a little tasting coming up the next couple of days, and go over how to execute all that. And yeah, every day check stuff off the list, and then stuff comes up and I add more to it, and then I look at it and I prioritize, you know, what can be done later, what has to be done now, and just dancing in the rain.
So you mentioned your fiance has been real helpful. When do you get married?
Soon. I should hurry before she changes her mind.
You got a lot of big things happening, big life events, man.
Yeah. I mean, the goal, we got engaged last year, and finally I chased her around for 10 years. Well, 10 years she made me wait. And yeah. So, you know, of course, this is taking up a lot of our time and energy and stuff. So as soon as we can get this thing to hum, we'll start looking at that.
Last question, man. Tell me about some of your favorite. You got a bunch of tattoos on your arms here. Which ones are some of your favorite ones or most meaningful ones?
I tried to get them all to like mean something cool. One of my restaurateur heroes in LA, his name's Bill Chait, and I stalked his Instagram once, and his very first Instagram post is a quote by Charles Bukowski. I never read any Bukowski books, so I'm not trying to, I don't want to fake the funk here, but the quote is, "Find what you love and let it kill you." And that just like sung to me. So I have that across my chest, especially in this line of work, right? Like it's a grind. It takes a lot out of us, but I love it. So here we are. I have a ship. I got all traditional stuff because I had been wanting sleeves for a long time and wasn't sure even where to start. And I, over the course of like 4 weeks, 2 years ago, I ran into like a bunch of guys that had great tattoos, and I asked them, about them, and they all said, "Go to the same guy. You go to Johnny 2/3 in Hermosa Beach." And so he does all traditional. So I was like, cool, I'm getting all traditional. I got a ship because to remind me that a smooth sea never made a skilled sailor.
That's a great one.
Yeah. I got a hot air balloon because I read that if things feel rocky, sometimes things aren't going your way. Imagine yourself high up above the ground looking down, and it makes your problems feel smaller. It's about perspective, whatever. So that's helpful. And then I wanted something with fire because Danny Meyer has a thing on fire that he talks about. So I got this little lantern with a campfire in it. Danny Meyer says that as a manager, you have fire and you have to be smart with how you use that fire. You use it as like as a campfire to like gather people around for warmth and stuff, and for nice little hangout sesh. You use the fire like as a torch to like lead the way, right? And then of course sometimes if when it comes to accountability, sometimes people aren't doing what they're supposed to do. You got it fire.
Yeah, you gotta poke them with the hot poker. So Danny Meyer, you've mentioned a couple of times, and his book "Setting the Table" is an iconic. I mean, just a wonderful, amazing book that so many people over the years I've spoken to have read that, learned from that, implemented a lot of the things he talks about. So he's clearly a role model of yours. Who are some of the other ones that you've learned a lot from?
He's probably the biggest. One of my old bosses, Mike Zislis, owns a big restaurant hotel group here in the South Bay, and he started a concept called Rock and Brews, and they're expanding like crazy. He's been a huge influence and role model for me as far as he calls himself a serial entrepreneur. He's always seeing how to grow and all of his operations do really well. I read all the books, like Bastianich. I apply things I learned from him. Of course, Kitchen Confidential, Bourdain has been big. Whatever I can get my hands on, really. Old GMs that I've worked with, I always remember stuff that they taught me, as far as different things about like how we present ourselves in the dining room and stuff. My general manager at Strand House where I work, his name was Michael Morissette, and kind of comes back to everything we do. We do it for the guest. Something as like simple as like, there's some chairs that are not being used that are kind of pushed off to the side of the dining room, and a guest walks by and it looks like storage, like they're not being used. Some are upside down, stacked on each other like that. There's a way that you can rearrange that so that it looks like an inviting place to sit, just because it's more appealing to the eye and it feels better in the room. Stuff like that. Or like one of the places I work at, we wear long sleeves and we're allowed to like roll our sleeves up. But I never I always keep my sleeves rolled down out of respect for the dining room and for professionalism and stuff. Even on a hot day, and it's 90 degrees out here in LA and everybody's got their sleeves up, but I keep my sleeves down out of respect to what we do and to the mentorship I received from Michael Morissette, recently passed from COVID. Bless his soul. A lot of thankful for anybody I've met along the top.
You're clearly a curious person and a student of the game, man. I really enjoy talking to you, Jason. I actually have I kind of skipped a call. I was supposed to get here 15 minutes ago because I just didn't want to stop, man. I really enjoy this. I'd love to do this again, after you guys get open and get rolling, man. Maybe we can check in and see how things are going compared to plan, and what things have happened that you positive or negative that you hadn't expected, and how you guys are adjusting. I think it's really cool opportunity to document, sort of real time somebody's first attempt at this. And man, I just know you're going to make it work. I can just tell by talking to you and the amount of thought and time and care and love that you've put into it, and that you have for the industry that you're a part of. So not that it will be easy, but it's takes a lot of, as you experienced just trying to raise money, you said your fiance, quote, talked you off the ledge a couple of times. Like it's tough. It's hard. There's a roller coaster ride, but you just keep rolling and you get there. But stay on that balloon ride on the rough days, man. Cause that's a great perspective. I really like that. I think that's a neat way to look at it. And you're going to become a good sailor, man. There's no doubt about it. It's not an easy business, but none is, and nothing worthwhile is easy. So I'm excited for you, man. And I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to add some value to this podcast, man. I know a lot of people will appreciate it.
Happy to do it. It's an honor to even be asked to do it. I have huge respect for you and everything you've done. And I like I said, I've learned a lot from listening to people on here. And so it feels like a chance to give back and share whatever I can for anybody else who might be a couple steps behind me. Yeah, I'm happy to check in and talk about progress and where we're at. I'd love to. Love that.
Let's do it, man. We'll catch up. I'll wait to hear from you, because you'll know when you're ready and when you got time to do it. But I would truly love to do that if it works for you.
Likewise.
All right, man.
All right, brother. Talk soon. Cheers.
See you.